Hey everyone, good morning. Let us take this chance to welcome you back to our channel, where we share the untold stories of faith, family, and how hard it is to stay together in a world full of problems. If you haven't already, make sure to like, follow, and turn on notifications. This will make sure you never miss any of our passionate content. Today we're going to talk about a Daystar drama show that will both move you and teach you something. We are going to talk about the bad things that happened during Joni Lamb's controversial marriage to Dr. Doug Weiss in this piece. Not only has her family been shocked by the marriage, but so has the Daystar ministry. There are lessons, pain, and a call to discernment in this story. It has both serious pleas from her own children and threats from well-known people. Now is the time to begin. For starters, let's go over the most important events that led up to this troubled marriage so that we can fully understand the subject. November 21st, 2021, Marcus Lamb, Joni's late husband, dies. The funeral must take place by January 27th, 2022. Doug Weiss has filed for divorce from Lisa Weiss after 30 years of marriage. Today is May 31st, 2022. Doug and Lisa's split is official, with dates from June 4th to 9th, 2022. Joni says she has been talking to Doug on the phone. It is July 2022. Doug and Lisa Weiss are both being coached by Denise Bogg. It is August 2022, and Joni and Doug will be dating from now on. It is October 2022, and Daystar credit cards are being used to pay for Joni's $37,000 vacation resort bill. It is May 2023. At the same resort, Joni costs an extra $60,000 per night. The wedding of Joni and Doug is on June 10th, 2023. It's August 2023. While the Daystar board is meeting, Jonathan and Susie Lamb are fired from their jobs. Joni went through with the marriage, even though her kids and other important Christians were against it. First, let's look into the voices of those who don't agree with her, starting with her kids. First, I'm going to talk about what Joni's children, especially her son Jonathan Lamb, have said. The touching letter he sent to his mother sheds light on the pain going on inside the family, which most people would not have anticipated. Jonathan's letter makes it sound like there is a lot of stress in the family. He says in his writing that Jimmy said Susie and I were rude when we voiced our worries during that conversation. Because we wouldn't read user comments that were positive about Doug, you threatened to fire us. Jonathan and Susie felt that their beliefs and roles in the church were being ignored so that Joni could get married. In the letters they sent to each other, they talked about how scared and hurt they were. Even though they went to the wedding to show how much they loved each other, they were pushed to the side, and Jonathan said the situation was impossible. Next, let's look at Pastor Valerie Hartwell's letter, which is both sad and angry. Pastor Roy Hartwell, Valerie's husband of 29 years, died in March 2023. She says that she has deep doubts about the date and nature of Joni's marriage to Doug Weiss. What Valerie says in her letter is true. I would actually dare to say that there were hundreds of communications with Joni Lamb. There were many talks with Joni Lamb. Some people who were smart, some people who weren't, and people who didn't take what they said very seriously all said things to be careful. One of the letters was signed by Pastor Valerie Hartwell. She also had lost her husband, and this is her open letter to Joni. You and she talked back and forth, and this is her word to this person. Feelings about my concerns about your sudden marriage were written down in a letter I sent to you, someone who is also a widow, after our talk over Thanksgiving 2023. My husband, Senior Pastor Roy Hartwell, and I were married for 29 years before he died in March 2023. I was shocked at how quickly you fell in love. You used Jimmy Evans to introduce Doug in your engagement statement and wedding video. After seeing that, I called Jimmy and you, as president of Daystar, for using Jimmy to insult Doug's ex-wife only to protect your marriage. I told Dr. Doug, as you like to call him, that you and your kids should have had time to grieve and get used to losing their father and grandpa before starting a new relationship. This is what I did because I think you deserve this call. Doug should have known better as a psychologist than to bother a family and widow who were having a hard time with grief at such a young age. It's embarrassing for him. But it's even more embarrassing for you as a mother, grandmother, and president of Daystar to have allowed this disgusting and sinful marriage to happen. It has broken up your family and Daystar. You replied almost right away to my email and told me not to compare how long your pain is to how long mine is. Joni, what do you mean? You didn't even wait 6 months for Doug's divorce to be complete before you jumped right into this relationship. You and your friend Tom gathered around your son Jonathan to try to persuade him that you were having a hard time grieving Marcus's death. You even wrote a book during the storm to try to make everyone believe how hard it was for you to be a widow, which is obviously not true. Doug said that Jesus died so that we could have good sex. When I finally wrote to you on Thanksgiving 2023, I told you to clear that up. I was telling you how hard it will be for kids in South Africa to get better if they hear a Christian doctor say that, and how that would only make their sins seem worse to a pedophile, prostitute, or other sex offender. I didn't know that Jonathan and Susie were having a hard time because of their daughter, and I didn't know that they were being pushed to the side for your new husband at Daystar. I didn't know about the emotional turmoil they were going through because of their little girl. This is something my mom told me once. There are lots of men, but no one can ever take your kids. Because you are so proud of yourself, you have left your kids to be with Doug, a man who has caused millions of people, including wise widows, to have problems in their marriage. It is completely and utterly silly to use the so-called false promises that were given to you because you stuck to them to explain why you remarried so quickly. It is important for prophecies to match up with the Bible. Sorry to be the one to tell you this, Joni, but the promises you held on to so tightly in your spirit, and even wrote about in your book to help people understand why they should accept your marriage, were nothing but lies. If you have any strength left, do the right thing and quit service. Because you put your own needs ahead of the Lord's, you have caused your children, grandchildren, and Daystar a lot of pain. You should quit service for their sake. Now with you and Doug, and take some time to take care of your physical, mental, and spiritual health at the same time. Since your husband is a great counselor, I'm sure that Dr. Doug can help you hand over control of Daystar to the rightful heir, which is your son Jonathan. To be a caring and loving mother, Pastor Valerie Hartwell of Jesus Unlimited Church in Washington, D.C., says that you must say that you are and show your love in a way that helps your children, granddaughter, and grandchildren fulfill their God-given destiny, callings, and future for Daystar and the Lord before you fall asleep. Valerie's words, even though they are strong, are full of fear. It is not as important to Joni that her relationship with Doug is important than the grief of her children and grandkids, she says. Valerie also calls the marriage into question by citing what she says are prophecies. She says that any forecast must match what the Bible says. How do those of you who have been blessed feel? Should people be worried about what Valerie wrote, or did she come across as being too harsh? Tell us what you think in the box below. Denise Bogg, a minister and trusted advisor, is another person coming out in this new case. From the letter Denise sent, it's clear that she's very worried about how Joni's choice might affect her spiritual life. Denise, welcome to the Lamb family. In this letter to the Lamb family, she says, I am writing this letter with a heavy heart in my heart. I met with Joni last week before the baby shower, and as I listened to her talk, I felt very scared. It was like I had never met her before. As it stands, she seems to have been taken over by a spirit of doubt. She smiled as she told me about something Doug had said to her that was so rude for a Christian woman. It made her look like she was pleased, which was different from the Joni Lamb I used to know. You are being tricked and drawn when someone flatters you with the intent to seduce you. You can figure out who your spiritual enemy is because of what the evil spirit does. When someone is being struck by a spirit of deception, they are more likely to lie themselves. There is a spirit of lying that uses charm to get in the door at first. If a man wants to find the weak spot in a woman's heart, he will try to flatter her. When a woman falls for the lie of charm, she is easy to influence by others. Galatians 5 says that you shouldn't be close to the works of darkness that don't lead to anything good. Instead, you should correct them. When it's dark, we have two options. Either face it head on or laugh at it and get along with it to deal with it. Because of this, praise comes before lying in this case. When someone gives in to charm, they let someone else trick them. When someone flatters you, they show all of your weaknesses to the enemy. I told her I was worried about Doug when Joni and Doug were just getting to know each other, but she wouldn't listen and instead talked about how great Doug was. At this point, I woke up. I knew that she had been affected by a spirit of lying. She had strong feelings about some things in the past, and those were the ones I told her to be careful with. If someone is under the influence of a spirit of trickery, they will start to show up in front of you as someone you don't know. They would never have said the things they are saying now in the past. Because of this, I want to talk about my fears about Daystar. What is being done is an attack on Daystar. People watching will not be fooled because Marcus and Joni have set such high standards for Daystar while they were together. At that point, they will be able to see through the lie. When people start to notice the changes in Joni, they'll figure out something is wrong, and the number of people watching will drop by a lot. Because they have been led by Marcus Lamb for a long time, they will not be tricked. They will know that something is wrong, and they will be able to tell the difference between the old leadership and the new one. A member of the Daystar family named Marcus Lamb has been in charge. He was a strong supporter of truth and right. The enemy is doing bad things with Doug, and the Lord has shown me. Anyone who watches Daystar will be able to tell that Doug isn't telling the truth if Joni gives in to his pressure and helps him lead. He really is a wolf that looks like a sheep. Being in such a prominent role is not right for him. He is being used by the enemy to bring Daystar to his knees. Using Daystar, which is one of the most powerful Christian TV networks in the country, the enemy was able to make fun of the marriage covenant. Joni didn't agree with the breakup until she was told this lie. I had an opinion about Doug after spending a few days with him. Prior to getting married, I made it clear to her that the issues that had come up in the last marriage had to be fixed. I was told by your mother at first that they would listen to what I had to say. But after Jimmy Evans gave his full approval to Doug, she told me that they would not be interested in talking to me. Being with Doug for 3 days has given me a full understanding of the deep-seated issues that caused Doug's first and only marriage to end. The most worrying thing is that the things that caused the first marriage to end are being accepted without much thought. During the meeting I had with your mother on Friday before the shower, she told me again all the names of the people who were backing your marriage to Doug. Because I know what the main problems are, I can see the warning signs that other people miss. Based on what Doug wants him to know, Jimmy Evans knows about Doug. The result is that Jimmy Evans is in favor of this marriage, even though he doesn't fully understand what happened in the first marriage. How can you be sure that Joni is safe with him if you don't know about the problems that led to what happened? A lot of things are at risk for Joni, like her health, her reputation, the family's heritage, and the millions of people who trust Daystar. People who care about Jimmy Evans should pray that he will understand how serious the situation is and how much is at stake for the growth of God's kingdom. When each of you gets your check, I hope you will be smart and not use your fingers to press the minimize button. Marcus has been punishing you for a long time, and I'm hoping that you can put the past behind you and work together as one. Being honest with your mom is the only way to get her to see things as they really are. Every single one of you, I would love to meet you and give a speech on your behalf. Denise, you all look so great. Okay, so as soon as we found that letter, I jumped right into action mode. I got all 6 of us on the phone at once and said, hey, we need to meet Mom and talk to her about this. I then hang up the phone. The next day, I went to Daystar and told my mom, hey, I'd like to meet with you, and we could have a family meeting. She suggested that we do one after the show, and I agreed. As soon as the show was over, she came up to me and asked to meet in her office. Right after that, she said, hey, I have to fly to New York with Doug. Because of this, I'm going to give each of you 1 minute to say what you think. So each of us played our piece for 1 minute. Afterward, she merely stated, I hear you, but all I hear you saying is that the only thing I hear coming from you is the spirit of fear. She then pointed at us and said, fear, 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 before quickly leaving the property to catch a flight to New York. To put it another way, there was no truth.